Virginia Beach, 2014. Lieutenant Ryan Graves and his squadron, the VFA-11 Red Rippers, began to pick up strange objects on their instruments within the traditional training area off the coast of Virginia. For weeks, the objects would disappear and reappear almost daily in different areas over the water. The objects would often materialize in groups of 6 or 7. This incredible event passed on with no discernible conclusion as the objects were seemingly ignored. Traveling from the coast of Virginia to the southern parts of the Shenandoah Valley, a similar event occurred in 1987, where a local radio station was flooded with reports of UFOs for weeks after the local sheriff and his deputies reported seeing strange illuminated objects in the night skies. This case file joined the theorists as they cruised some country roads for mountain mommas in the Wytheville UFO Flap.
Welcome to Alien Theorists Theorizing Case File 281, the Wytheville UFO sighting. I'm Brayden.
Flap.
I'm Zell.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Andrew.
This one goes back to one of our favorite places. West Virginia. Mama.
Yeah, this is like right by the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Blue Ridge
It
Mountains.
is in the Blue Ridge Mountains, yeah.
Yeah,
Is it on the Shenandoah River?
I was like, as soon as they mentioned it, it's like, I know about that place.
I know all about the Blue
Well,
Ridge
Johnny
Mountains.
D fucking...
It's pretty close to the Shenandoah River, right?
It is.
Yes.
I think it's right on it.
Yeah.
Is that the only river that runs through there?
This is the biggest one, probably. Yeah. That one's
The famous Shenandoah.
Hey,
let's be honest, it's the only one that matters.
and
It's in
Dan,
the song.
do you ever with a teardrop in your eye miss the sweet taste of moonshine?
I don't know if Wytheville is that moonshine there. I don't know. Last time I had moonshine, I got blasted. I probably don't miss the taste of moonshine. But never want to drink it ever again.
I'm going to be honest with you, Dan. I feel a bit cheated in our friendship after watching that Unsolved Mysteries and listening to all those fucking wicked accents. And then you show up with nothing.
Where's your accent?
Nothing?
Where's your cool West Virginia
That's
accent?
southwestern Virginia. Southwest.
Yeah, but I don't even... Where's the touch? There's nothing there.
You don't even have a bit of twang.
Yeah,
No.
there's no... You
I'm
don't
from
even say
Northern
anything
Virginia,
real silly.
Metropolitan Virginia.
Civilized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Civilized folk.
that pinky out, eh? Don't you?
Yeah, everyone from where I'm at does no will be like technically non-accented. Like it's just it just sounds like this. There's not. But if you go
2 hours south, everyone's a country bumpkin or what?
pretty much, yeah. Not even that. Like maybe like an hour south, like you start hearing that twang a bit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's where you're. This took place in Wytheville, Virginia, which Wytheville is about. It's pretty close to where I went to university for my undergraduate, Radford University. It's not that far. It's 4 hours and some change, like from where I live now. But yeah, it's like right next to the city Radford where I used to go to university.
I really read this whole time as Whittyville. I don't know why. I don't know why.
I started out with Wytheville, and then I thought it was Whiteville, and then I heard him say Wytheville on the Unsolved Mysteries. So I was like, oh, okay, it's Wytheville. All right.
Sounds like you're saying it with a lisp. Wytheville.
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 How well going down to Wytheville? We'll see you soon.
The series of events that we're going to be talking about took place around October 7th of 1987, where you had radio reporter Danny Gordon doing his usual check-in with the county sheriff, and the sheriff had some interesting information
which is
to share
wild.
with him.
What a wild time. This is like the only time when I read this part and heard this part, I was like, It's fucking insane. A local radio disc jockey would call up the local law enforcement and be like, "Hey, any breaking stories here, pal?" He's like, "Not today.
Not today.
I shot 5 chickens with 2 shots." And he's like, "That's going to be the breaking news today.
Headline
Front
news.
page.
Yeah. That's going to be top of the hour there, Sheriff."
So now, according to Danny, when he got his information, his daily check-in with the sheriff did give him stuff. He said, "Yeah, like we don't really have anything to report, but
Yeah, old Bob was drunk driving again, and some cows got let out the pasture. Oh yeah, and there was about 50 calls about some sort of unidentified flying object."
You think this sheriff's getting kickbacks from old Danny boy?
I think they had just a normal old boy relationship.
Fucking
Like they known
pizza
each other
coupons
forever.
or something.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do you get? Some like radio T-shirts and hats or some shit? Like, why is he? What's the point? You know,
Sheriff, you're always color 9 in my books.
He's getting first
Yeah,
dibs on all the
exactly.
concert tickets for sure.
Must be.
I mean, Gordon is a legit Wytheville native. Like he lived in Wytheville all of his life. Like he went to pretty much attending school, playing football there. He graduated from Wytheville Community College. He had a degree in business management, but he wanted to get into radio broadcasting or broadcast journalism, and so he became pretty much the local radio DJ or news radio DJ, essentially.
Dude, it's like 8,200 people in Wytheville.
Yeah, not that many. That's like now too.
Yeah, that's now.
That's nothing. That's like a gas station and a handful of houses,
Yeah.
One stoplight.
if that.
So yeah, pretty much every day he'd call the sheriff, Wayne Pike, and he would ask him if anything was going on. And so this particular morning, Pike told him about 3 of his deputies who all were claiming that they had seen a UFO. And so Pike, to characterize him, like he's not your stereotype like Southern sheriff. Like he's not your in the heat of the night
Brasco Pico Coltrane.
Yeah, he's not that kind of you in a heap of trouble boy. Like he's not that kind of guy. But he is a very
at it again.
Gordon described him more of as a well-educated and articulate man he ran a very well-organized department, and he had a pretty good sense of humor.
Because he was fucking reporting to the local disc jockey every morning.
I feel like we're giving a guy a lot of credit that's fucking arrested 3 people in 65 years of being a cop.
How is that weird? How is that weird that he's reporting to, like he's telling the local.
You ever heard of fucking confidentiality? That's fucking.
Well, he's just like, have you seen anything weird? Like
You know what? No, it does make sense now when you think of Wytheville in the sense that where they don't arrest anyone and nothing goes on because
So
it's
they
like
shame them in the public.
He's calling and he's like, "Oh, hey, Danny." He's like, "Well, we just arrested old Bill for adultery."
I would assume they keep most of the names like blurred out, just like we do.
I would fucking hope so.
Well, with our Mongoose files, like kind of seem equivalent.
No, because
Hey, Bill, anything exciting happened? Well, Mr. Johnson went down for fucking kitty porn. You're like, I don't want anything to do with that.
Charges are pending, though. We'll see.
Yeah.
I think he from the descriptions of Pike, I'm sure he kind of had the sense to just keep it to very superficial kind of weird stuff that would be put out there.
This relationship between Danny and the sheriff makes a lot of sense later on in the story with how Danny acts with any other law enforcement agency that he comes across he's looking for information.
He's a patriot.
Yeah, he's a fucking patriot, and he's a little too buddy, as we'll get into it later on down the story. But that as we're saying this, I'm like, it's adding up now. It's adding up in my head.
So when they went through the entire thing, apparently there was a total of 5 police officers who managed to catch sight of this, what they described as seeing like a bright red and green light in the sky. And most of these, at least a couple, more than a few of them, had previous military training, was what Pike said, and that they couldn't have really been fooled by something like if it had been just like a plane or like a helicopter.
There's 5 cops in a town of 100 people?
I mean,
No, 8,200.
Oh,
So there's probably like 5 on shift or something. I bet there's
Yeah,
more
so
than that.
obviously this fucking saucer either went over the detachment or a fucking donut shop. Like, what are these 5 guys doing hanging around with each other? Shouldn't they be working?
safety meeting.
Yeah, why aren't they spread out a little?
I mean, they may have been. I'm just saying, like across
maybe-
the whole county, like they
They
had
seen
5 of them checking in
All
and saying,
sighted.
like, yeah, we saw it.
Well, I guess it is their job to observe and report. Right? Fucking staring at the sky looking for weird lights.
Yeah. 3 of those cops were neighborhood watch.
Yeah.
The ones who were close enough to, or judged that they were close enough to be able to hear something, they said that that craft made no noise, and
Silent.
that they were pretty certain that what they saw was not an airplane and it wasn't a helicopter, of what they had seen. So after Danny got this information, Pike also kind of relayed to him like another kind of story about a family from Ohio that was actually visiting the Graham's Forge area in the eastern part of the county. And they had reported that an object, some type of unidentified flying object, had actually ran them off the road or, distracted them enough that they took off the road.
And that's we've discussed countless cases like that where the one in Australia, the grandmas and the
Wonder if
that
this
ate
was
the
that
bad
family. Was
sushi
their
diner.
last name O'Doyle? That's all I could picture for whatever reason. Doyle rule.
punching the roof. as
Punching
they
the
go.
roof right off the cliff.
Fucking hit a banana peel and fucking the whole family gets wiped out.
In their report to the deputy of what they had seen, they said that this low-flying
Deputy.
object had come at their car and pretty much forced them off the road, they fearing a collision with this object. And apparently the family just watched this object as it just kind of hovered a short distance away from them with just these blinking lights and making no sound. And then it apparently it kind of had like a flat gray color on the side that was nearest to the family is what they described seeing. And then it just kind of sped off in a northern direction from what they could judge. Again, making absolutely no noise, just instant acceleration, just taking off.
It's always no noise, but there's always some type of light associated.
It's weird.
What's the light for? Maybe the light's the
It's like,
propulsion.
so what do you think? Like, do you think that's just their technology is just soundless? Or do you think they're like making it that way to stay somewhat incognito, but then they have these flashing fucking lights on there?
That's what I mean. Maybe the lights are the propulsion.
Weird.
Maybe it is silent, and that's why we see the light, some type of like, you only seen one part of the spectrum, but it's shooting some type of energy.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, that's an interesting thought because I was thinking that, like, I guess this is what are those things called? Transmediums? Is that what they were called, where it goes land to sea and stuff?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because if something was to go that fast, like, wouldn't it make a sonic boom when it broke the sound barrier? Like just going fast?
It would if it was operating in our laws.
Right? Like even if it had like no means of propulsion, you would think that when it got to that speed and it broke the sound barrier, it would make that sonic boom, which these things never really do.
It's always
it's
traveling outside of in between realities, wherever they say, like the gimbal.
where,
It has like that,
some sort of
force
light.
field, like that force field around it that kind of makes it all blurry.
Oh yeah, so you can't get the photo of it, right?
It's the same type of camouflage that Bigfoot wears.
But didn't we talk? We talked about like a way of traveling. It was like the ship makes the field around it and then travels through it, right? So it doesn't get torn apart or something. So yeah, maybe whatever the field they're generating. I never thought about the no sonic boom thing with these things traveling so fast because you think they would. Interesting. So it's like it makes sense to transmedium. That's why they go, because it's not even really cutting through air. There's no friction. Like even though it's in our Earth, it's not being affected by friction
or gravity or anything.
Yeah, or nothing. Interesting.
So Gordon took the story that he got from the sheriff and he ran with it. And he ran this 60-second story on WFXR News, saying that he was excited to share a different kind of story with the listeners. But Danny Gordon wasn't exactly prepared for just how common UFO sightings were in Wytheville. This would be his first experience with finding out that those police officers weren't the first and definitely not the last people to have seen UFOs in the Wytheville area.
Now, the other interesting thing that is like he ran this, like at the end of his show, he usually would just do a BS story, like I said at the top of the show, make
human interest story to fucking
right?
sign
like
off with.
A cop shot 5 chickens with 2 bullets. He ran that as a story the day before, right? Like at the tail end, and he just makes a 60-second, and it basically goes viral. All 8,200 people hear about it.
Now, none of the police officers, because fearing ridicule, actually did any interviews for Danny Gordon, and or any really members of the press. That's
normal. That's normal. The sheriff just having open lines of discussion with Danny Gordon in the morning every morning is unusual.
Well, that's it. But like, obviously, he doesn't mention that these stories are coming from the sheriff, though, right?
Like I'm assuming he goes, yeah, I heard this from a friend of a friend of mine.
Friend of a friend, yeah.
Well, but I'm wondering, like, they probably go for coffee. Like, they're good old boys. They probably know each other well. They meet at fucking Martha's place for a fucking cherry pie and a couple coffees. And then he gives them the deets of what's been happening.
He gives them the deets, and the sheriff slips them underneath the table those confiscated drugs.
He's like, I can't tell you. He's like, well, this key lime pie is telling me differently. And he's like, oh, Danny, you know the key to my vault. Spills every morning.
And so the story kind of blew up from these UFO sightings. So Danny Gordon started getting a number of calls coming in, and not just from people who were claiming to have seen UFOs either before or after the ones at the events that the sheriff's deputies had shared with him, but you had other newspapers, like both like local and like Virginia newspapers, as well as, this is back in the day when there was more than like one newspaper like this, and then you had like national newspapers like coming in and like calling up Danny and being like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening?
But I think like it's important to talk, like when he talked about this, I would imagine like he's the number one hit fucking show at that point in time.
Yeah. And
like when he told that story,
show.
his switchboard lit the fuck up in minutes. Right?
Yeah,
like
the lines were clogged.
Yeah, and like people saying, and some people had stories up to like years and years old. Other people describing different types of sightings, different types of crafts. Other people were saying that like they've had issues with their livestock being spooked by these lights and stuff like that. I think one of the biggest things though is everybody was that same common thing where the ships were completely silent.
Silent.
Yeah, there were different descriptions. Yeah, there were some that like were completely different descriptions of like the different crafts. Like some of them,
somebody said it was like a shape of a T.
Yeah, they had like T shapes. They had every type of aircraft, every type of UFO shape that, if you get one of those posters and it's the common UFO shapes, you probably had one from each category. You had people with the triangular shape seeing it with the lights on the each end. You had circular, you had spherical, you had every type of UFO, and people calling in and being like they had seen something. And, now Danny Gordon, kind of painted himself as a skeptical, like a very skeptic, practical person. His interest in broadcast journalism, like he was always interested in being kind of like seen as a credible person and kind of pursuing the truth and just kind of bringing that to the public. And so with all of these people calling in, he wasn't exactly totally, at this point at the very beginning, Danny hadn't really jumped on the bandwagon and been like, yeah, there's UFOs for sure. He was like, people are seeing something and we need to figure out what that is. In my mind, there was not a second that went through his mind. He went, people are loving this. We got to strike while the iron's hot. I've never been more popular. The radio show. We got to have a UFO hour every Sunday.
I'm going to write a book.
This is going to be my Baghdad or whatever reporters.
My Baghdad?
What?
The reporters.
A big story is what you're saying?
Big story.
Baghdad's a big story. That's where you're going?
Yeah.
Well,
I see how you got there.
Yeah. He did write a book. And so, yeah.
That's right.
He did write a book with another journalist, Paul Dellinger, called "Don't Look Up: The Real Story Behind the Virginia UFO Sightings," where I pulled some of the info for this case file. But yeah, it's talking about it. But he describes, at least in that book, he talks about him being a very starting out as a skeptic, and then as events unfolded, he became more and more of a believer. Kind of went more and more down the rabbit hole, as we'll see.
I think especially when I would say, like, it kind of happens with us too. It's like, I'm sure of these hundreds and hundreds of phone calls he's getting, he's just like, oh yeah. But then every now and then there's some where he's like, okay, that's a little interesting. And what you just said there kind of ties into what this person told me. And you start to get these loose connections and you're like, well, these people don't know each other and they don't know they told me this. And now their stories kind of corroborate each other. It would be very interesting. I'm sure you would kind of be like, you would start to be like, all right, well, maybe there is something here. Maybe these people are seeing something.
And so they're not, the people of Wytheville are not exactly strangers to having unusual aircraft or kind of seeing like strange aerial maneuvers around.
Yeah, fucking Mothman.
That's West Virginia. That's West Virginia.
It's all Virginia. You say, how far is Virginia? You can't fly as a crow flies? You don't think flies? Mothman can fucking glide across?
But we have like here in Virginia, we got tons of Air Force bases and stuff like this. So I think they said Langley.
What's the one you got? Langley? Yeah.
Langley is one of the closer ones. And that's one that is very, like Langley Air Force Base is just like where they would, that's where you would scramble out jets from. And all of those things.
I would imagine that Air Force, like that area too, being like so close to the Pentagon and stuff, probably be like super heavily fortified defense.
Washington D.C. itself like has the kind of a duh moment, but it's like it is the largest non-fly zone in the United States. Like,
dude, they probably have the most sophisticated air defense weapons there too. Probably like buried underneath the city. If some type of enemy jet came in, they'd probably like lift up, their version of Central Park would lift up with some big turrets.
Yeah.
I can just imagine
the Pentagon just shifts open. It's actually just a fucking hangar that just
does look like a giant G.I. Joe base.
It's just like just rail guns come out of the top of the Washington Monument.
Every street light just flips up. Fucking hyper beams, fucking shooting in the sky.
You know when they started construction on the Pentagon?
No.
1500 BC.
September 11th, 1941.
Oh, shit.
Interesting.
Been planned.
Coincidence?
This whole time. Yeah, the Pentagon was actually built on a prior civilization's foundation.
And that's burial ground?
Yeah. And that's where the tech came from.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
It actually predates the pyramids.
It's a megalithic structure. Yeah, that's fucking...
You ever heard that conspiracy? It's true. Look it up.
One of the more interesting reports that
this is his first contracting job.
One of the more interesting reports that Gordon received is that he got a caller, Patricia.
It's one
Aker.
solid block. There's nothing like it in all the world. Forget the 50-ton blocks. It's one block. Have you looked at it? There's not even you can't even put a credit card in anywhere. It's one block. We should do DC tours where we tell people that we run a tour telling people it's a megalithic structure.
I'm pretty sure I had one of those in Rome where the guy, like, we had a tour guide that we booked out of a hostel, and I think he was just bullshitting us the whole way through. I was like, yeah, Julius Caesar died here. And you're like, yeah, I don't know about that, buddy. Like, this is an Italian restaurant in the middle of nowhere.
Like a bubble tea place. Yeah. He's like, all right, now you can buy some jade in the back.
Yeah, this kitchen over here, this is where Caesar died. You can also get great antipasti here.
We should start
you have to buy something.
We should start a podcast that rivals hardcore history, but it's all completely fake, and we make it up on the fly.
Softcore history. Somebody hasn't already thought of it.
Drunk wrong history.
We just tell people, like, can you show me that the Pentagon hasn't always been there?
Yes.
I'm sure there's
There are
before
pho- there
pictures.
are
There might be some
Yeah.
some pictures.
Yeah, that's what NASA wants you to think.
Yep. Sure. So Patricia Aker was a resident of Fort Chiswell, which is just west of Wytheville, and she told, this is kind of interesting little piece, is that like her and her husband were on a road that was near, I guess, their local fish hatchery out there, and they seemed that they had sighted what some type of very large aircraft that was flying very low, and they couldn't hear anything from this thing. Like it was just they couldn't hear any sound from this aircraft, and they weren't sure what it was doing. And it was like her husband, like it startled her husband to the point that he said, like, "Oh my goodness, that's a UFO," and that I guess like that's made the kids start crying. I guess the kids were freaking out, like in the car.
As an adult, I'd probably cry.
Yeah.
But the strange thing is that they were able to identify them. She was like, they were big airplanes. She was like, these were big airplanes. But the thing is that like they were out around like 7 p.m., which was kind of like at that time was like, this is like October. So it was like 7:00 at night and it was dark. And she's like, I don't know what they were doing out there, but they were flying really, really slow. She said that they were painted army green, but they look like just the big army transport planes, like these big army planes, like flying around. And it's like, okay, so you had a UFOs like a couple nights ago flying around here all over the place, and then you've got like, you know, Air Force and/or Army planes like flying around, maybe looking for something. Just kind
100%.
It's a weird look for sure. And so media outlets across the country just picked up on this story, and like television crews just started like flooding into Wytheville, right? And just kind of just trying to pick up on what was going on and what the story was that was going on. Because I mean, if something happens in Virginia, it usually gets national coverage just because it's so close to Washington,
the
D.C.
proximity. Yep.
And it's like most of probably the national news stuff can like you can send people down there and be like, hey, can you go check this out? So it's
they're like,
I don't think it's a real mystery.
Wytheville?
Yeah, Wytheville. Like, where is that? This is back in the days before
That's
Google
in Virginia.
Maps.
Fuck.
Like, oh my god. It's actually not that bad. I think you just have to hop on 81 and get down there. It's not too bad. But yeah, you're still like driving down. It is very like almost the end tip of Virginia. It's like the neck of like that little part down there in Virginia. And yeah, so it's like you had this entire like media circus going on in Wytheville, which was just something a lot of people weren't really like prepared for some of them.
Where's everybody taking a shit? This is a town of 100 people. Like there's only fucking one toilet. It's digging holes out behind the van.
There's a public Zell's concerned. They're all pulling a Zell in the alleyways.
Everyone's
Look like
shitting
San
on that
Francisco
building. Oh, it's disgusting.
in Wytheville.
So
Is that a real thing? I always hear that as a rumor that there's apps and shit to tell your people shit in San Francisco. Is that real?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, because there's people shit everywhere.
That is real. I thought that was just like that became an internet rumor. That's real. Like people just shit everywhere,
well,
and then
maybe I got confused by the rumor too. But I feel like my cousin lived there and he told me about it.
See,
there's people shit all over the place.
Cisco.
Kelowna's not too far off.
We're getting there. We got a couple shitty streets.
Yeah, there is. It's called Snap Crap.
wow.
You pin where it was.
Yeah, you pin where it is.
Jesus.
Great.
So you can sightsee them, I guess.
I guess.
But yeah, this story's going sensational at this point. Like it's hot. It's the hot story.
It's gripped the nation.
Yeah.
Gripped the world.
Well, it's gripped Virginia, maybe. Definitely Wytheville.
So Danny doing his due diligence, and you know he felt as his responsibility as the broadcast journalist and kind of the main source of the news in Wytheville, kind of went out and he was making phone calls to everybody that he could possibly think of in order to kind of figure out what was going on.
Well, just before that, he like because of the height of this, like he basically made a Cosmic Channels knockoff because there were so many people calling that he's like, okay, well, we can't even play songs here. Can't even give away tickets. So now, like, he basically had like a designated hour of like, hey, like, this is when you can call. This is when the time to call in, and you tell me the story, right? So like he had a call in time where he would receive hundreds and hundreds of these calls. Zell, do we have the audio? Zell, do we have the audio for the radio show? Did you?
Oh, yes. So yeah, we have the audio. I believe we have a old archived audio. I think I had to rip it off cassette tape. This is what. Let me just pull it up right here.
Good morning, Wytheville. This is Danny Gordon with WFXR.
And I'm the sheriff.
This is your WFXR News on the Nines, coming in the middle of our John Denver morning
And
marathon.
I'm the sheriff.
We got a little bit of a new sensation here in Wytheville as we have a number of reports of people seeing unidentified flying objects
Aliens!
in our airspace.
That's aliens, Dan.
Now we're going to turn to we're taking calls. Most of you have heard the stories coming up, and I'd like to hear from our Wythevillians to see what's going on out on the streets.
All right, we got the first caller here. I'm the sheriff. You're on the line. Danny, is that you, Danny? Danny?
That's me, caller. Where are you calling
Danny.
from? Who are you?
Man, I'm calling from down the block. I could see your building right from here, buddy. Now, listen, first of all, long-time listener, first-time caller. I just want to tell you, I was outside, looked outside, heard some noises, came outside, saw my chickens, my cows, everybody's going crazy. Looked up, saw some bright lights, panicked, ran back inside, called 911. Then your famous friend over there, Sheriff Pike, he came by. But
Bright
unfortunately,
lights.
lights were on.
Next caller. Okay.
Hi there, Danny. Is this Danny and the sheriff?
This is your Danny Gordon with WFXR, and you're on the air.
And this is the sheriff.
Sheriff Danny, it's me, Bergen. And I seen it last night. I seen these white lights that were streaking up the sky.
What'd you see, Bergen?
They scared my wife and my kids. My kids were up there playing in the yard. They were crying. But I don't know what I seen. I seen them ships flying over the skies fast. They were military green or something. They were chasing.
Nope. Next caller.
Danny! This is Danny. You're on the air.
Caller number 6, right? Calling for the John Denver tickets. You guys get those away yet? Caller number 6.
Sorry, caller. You're caller number 3.
Son of a bitch.
I may or may not have those tickets in my back pocket right now, but...
Is this, am I on?
Next caller.
Caller, you're on the air with Danny Gordon and the sheriff.
And the sheriff.
I got the craziest story, man. I've been trying to get on forever. I got the craziest story for you guys. You won't even know. My friends were at the school. It was like 100 meters away from me. And then like, man, this is crazy. And I'm on the show. And then like,
What happened? Where'd you go?
I turned around and went home. And my friends were there, but they were like, whoa.
Where were they? What were they doing?
What's going on? What's happening with you?
What did you see?
And then I was like, then earlier we were crossing the street to go, and I...
All right, an LSD is a hell of a drug, and that's the end of that call.
As you can see...
Hey, listen, hey, am I on?
Well, we can
you hear
take
me?
one more call for the night.
Dr. Sprinkles.
Caller, you're on the air.
Well, I just wanted to reach out to everybody really quick that if anybody's come in contact with any of these bright lights, anybody's feeling very stressed out and confused and don't know about their feelings and stirred up, that you can contact Dr. Sprinkles at 1-800-999-3674, and Dr. Sprinkles will help you with hypnotic regression therapies and talk you through this.
There's no
Okay,
self-promotion on the show. Okay.
That's basically what a day in the life of Danny Gordon was every single day.
After
Call
the
the
sheriff.
Danny and the sheriff. Whoa.
There's a snake in my boot.
The sheriff.
Yeah.
Fee.
They really were trying to capture two different audiences in Wytheville, but they only had one radio station. Right?
They had no one else for the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, and after this just like a flood of calls coming into the thing, Danny really got on the UFO believer train, and he was kind of determined to find out what was going on and get to the bottom of this UFO, like genuine UFO flap that was going on in Wytheville, Virginia.
And before he finds out what's going on, we're going to take a quick beer break. We'll be right back.
And this WFXR news has been brought to you by
Crazy Mo's Crazy Pickle Baby Emporium #1 sale. Everybody tell me, they say, hey, you'll give a pickle baby away. All the dealers, too good. I say, Mohammed, how crazy are we? Wow, we're crazy. We're too crazy. Everybody come to me. Today, we give you #1 good deal. Mohammed, where can they find us? What? Where do they find us, Mohammed? They can find us at P.O. Box 757. What the fucking address, Mohammed? We're on the radio. I pay for radio. Tell me where to find us.
If you want to advertise with WKXD,
we're back. Just before the break, Danny as Dan was leading into, because he feels, I guess, a sense of responsibility because he's the one that not really broke this story, but brought this story to the forefront. You know, he's obviously wants to strike while the iron's
dollar
hot.
bills.
He's become the
fucking cash cow.
Yeah, he's become the focal
cow.
point for it. Like all of these people are calling into him now. Like he's become the focus now of like all these people calling in with their various reports, and I'm sure he does feel some type of responsibility because he's Wytheville. He's Wytheville born and raised. Like all these people.
I heard everybody.
These people like
I heard he fucking wouldn't pay for parking tickets, anything like that. He just tell everybody, I am Wytheville. All right,
I'm the voice of Wytheville.
Yeah, fucking nobody fucks with Danny. Fucking Wytheville.
#1.
His name is Carlson. He's got. I picture him as like the Fraser Crane.
This is by far my favorite part, is because he's like, okay, well, I got to get to the bottom of this.
Have to.
And I think these might be, some sort of experimental aircrafts being flown by military personnel out of Langley, which, hey, that's
plausible. It's plausible.
100% undeniable if it was. Right? So he calls the military base. He calls them, right? He's like, I need to talk to whoever.
Hello, military base?
Is that you?
This is the voice of Wytheville.
Wytheville.
K97.7 Danny.
Like, who? Danny Gordon. Like, who?
Danny Gordy.
And he accounts. He goes, and they were a little apprehensive to talk to me. So I assured them. They're like, hey, listen.
Comped him a few tickets to fucking John Denver. And
here's a little John Denver ticket.
Sing like fucking birds.
And all I need from you is, if this is top secret military experimental crafts being flown in the skies, just let me know and I won't say a word because I'm a patriot.
Guy's a patriot.
And they're like,
guy's a patriot.
Patriots are very trustworthy people.
Well, this was 1987. Being a patriot was still cool.
I'm not saying it's not cool, but that's not going to get you any kind of top secret. He also called these like, you know what, Wild Matter, president at the time. This is Danny Gordon, the voice of Wytheville. I just want to know, or CIA president, were you involved in the JFK killing? Because if you were, you can tell me and I'll end it right here. Because I'm a patriot. I'm a patriot. NASA, did you really go to the moon or not? You can tell me if you didn't, and I won't say nothing because I'm a patriot.
Danny was making multiple calls to military bases and military officials, like trying to get somebody to go on record or even off the record to kind of explain what was going on out there, and the kind of the general explanation that
he was looking for his big break. He was looking for his big break. If I've had one of those guys listen to him and been like, oh, you're a patriot? And he's like, yeah. And they're like, okay, listen. It is us. It's top secret military craft. Don't say anything. He would have been the next morning, be like, "Hey, breaking news! I'm Danny Gordon. This is
My
Sheriff."
inside sources.
Yeah.
Well, think about how quickly he fucking flipped his other source, Sheriff Pike.
Sheriff, yeah.
As soon as he started writing books, he's like, I got all my info from Pike every fucking morning. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's confidential shit. He's not supposed to be telling the radio host.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Like, come on.
So the general explanation that he got from most of the military officials is Danny said that he was getting reports that these were planes refueling. This is what the people are seeing. Like, because people are seeing like, two lights come together and then the lights would part and come apart. So he was saying that they were having, that this is what they were seeing. But Danny was like, no, he called the Pentagon. He called officials at the Pentagon.
Mr. Pentagon, this is Danny Gordon.
And, apparently he said that he talked to an Air Force general there, an Air Force general or a major, and told me that if they're refueling under 13,000 feet, then somebody's butt is in a sling. And to this day,
What the fuck does that mean?
Well, it means they're fucked. Like they're
How
in
do you
trouble.
sling a butt?
Oh, you're in trouble.
Put in a big old, you make a big slingshot.
old sling.
You place the butt in the slingshot, then you shoot it.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone should know.
One of the
BJ
officials
Cheeks
that he
himself.
got the name was Major Ed Harrell, and said that, quote, "We are conducting refueling operations from our base north through the Wythe County and New River area, but we do not refuel at low altitudes. Our operation in no way could be what the Wythe Countians are seeing as
fucking
UFOs
great.
at 3,000 feet and under." So from what these people were seeing, that, these aircraft were flying, reportedly very low. He's like, it couldn't have been us. Like, we're not going to fly that low, because he explained that we don't do refueling that low because of turbulence. Like, it would just be a terrible thing to do and dangerous.
and also
With
ludicrous.
Countians?
And he
With
called-
Countians?
I don't know what else. Withians? Like, what else do you call them?
Countians, Withians,
With Villians.
Villains.
Yeah, that's way cooler.
Well, I think is it
Their
Wythe
sports
County?
teams are called the Villains. Like, it'd be fucking
I think it's
badass.
Wythe County. Like, it's so they can call them like you can call them Withians or Wythe Countians. Yeah,
With Counties.
I would think call them Withians.
It's to me though,
Indians
like
is good,
even the idea of bringing up that this would be some sort of like low altitude refueling, because if they were that low, there would be no fucking, like, there would be no
You
ifs,
hear
ands, or
them.
buts. You'd be like, those are planes. Oh, look, that one looks. There's a huge one refueling
wouldn't
some
be
other ones.
silent.
Yeah. Right? They don't have silent fucking refueling planes that we know of. We should call up the CIA and ask them.
Yeah, no problem.
Wow,
Just
we're
call them.
patriots, aren't we?
NSA, if you're listening, you can let us know. We're patriots.
So, Danny's trying to chase down every type of authority and person that he can possibly find to figure out what's going on. So he said that he tried to contact, national UFO groups. Nobody answered his calls, which is strange. They, usually,
Yeah, they'd think they'd be all over this. No,
they're-
he wanted the story to himself. He just lied. He didn't tell them.
And so he kind of said that he was at this point, after he wasn't getting any phone calls back from any of the UFO groups, local or national, he was ready to kind of hang up the story. But a lady called him who identified herself as one Barbara Finney, who's a resident of Troutdale, Virginia, and who was a UFO expert, and is which she claimed as her title.
Yeah.
Self-claimed?
And she
Yeah,
offered to come to Wythe County. I mean, it's like, UFO expert. I mean, we're UFO experts technically.
I'm not.
Well, at least like being Braden.
I am a UFO expert.
Braden 100% is a UFO expert.
Every single
You've
day,
seen a lot.
I watch every new video submitted on MUFON and every new picture submitted every single day with my coffee. Every single day.
Yeah, but I'm not. That's what I watch sports. Like, I'm not a sports expert.
Yeah, but after a while, you were like, if you watch,
No,
like, you're a
I've been
football
fucking-
expert. if
No,
you
I'm
watch
not.
football
I know
highlights.
a lot about it, but I'm not an expert.
Yeah. Well, in an unknown
I'm getting
field, I
paid
am
to
an
do it.
expert of an
No,
unknown
you're a
field.
professional.
You
You're a
can't-
professional if you get paid. An expert,
Yeah.
you can just be an expert. You don't have to get paid.
I don't think so.
You can just if you say you're an expert and you believe it and
Self-proclaimed.
you self-proclaim it, you can be an expert.
Yeah.
I don't know. Listen, I'll tell you what. I know for a fucking firsthand, I've seen a video that you've watched that was clearly an unidentified flying object, and you fucking just scoffed at it and called it a bug. All right. It was clearly a UFO.
It was clearly a 30-foot serpent creature.
Yeah. Centipede or whatever. Remember that? What's that game called?
Centipede.
Centipede.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So Barbara Finney offered to come to Wythe County and to kind of give her, lend her expert opinion and experience to help Danny kind of figure out what was going on. So her and her husband came down to Wytheville or Wythe County, and they accompanied. They went with. They went with Danny.
They went with to Wytheville.
Yeah, they went with the Wytheville, and they went to an area which was known as the Rural Retreat Lake, which sounds like a fucking horror movie place.
Absolutely.
But for a second, like, this guy is a fucking Doug. Like, remember Mel from Flight of the Conchords, her husband Doug, that just tails around?
Oh yeah, just supports her.
Right? This guy's a Doug.
Doug
he's
the
like,
cock.
He's like, oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
That's Doug standing over there by the car, like 20 feet away.
Hey, hon.
Shh. I'm talking. Oh, sorry. So
Get in the car, Doug. Told you to wait in the car.
It was a pretty large group that they had going with them. They had Joe Heldreth, who was a longtime friend and reporter for the Southwest Times. You had Mark Bowes, who was a reporter for the Richmond News, and then Richmond News leader and the Wythe County Sheriff Wayne, our favorite Sheriff Wayne Pike, also went with them. And so they all kind of went out there to keep their eyes on the skies, essentially, and just kind of go see what was going on, if they could catch the phenomenon.
Well, here's my question:
little drugs.
What's this expert going to bring to the table in this situation? Like, is she going to grab a little bit of grass and put in the wind and listen to the ground and be like, the UFOs would probably be this way? What would you do, Braden? Because you're an expert. What would you do to fucking go to a good spot to fucking view these UFOs?
Yeah, first step, walk us through it. Walk us through it.
Let's hear it. You got an EMF reader? Like, what are you going to do here, buddy?
Well,
Calibrated?
first off, I'd contact the local radio host.
Well, you're with them.
Yeah, right. But
He called you.
Yeah, he called me. No, I called him and offered my expertise.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So you're like, people don't see you, like, find you. You find them.
You find them. Yeah, I'm like
quite the
Jack
expert.
Reacher. Right? I find you when you need me the most.
Yeah, definitely reaching.
Right, and then I'd first off, I'd be like, first off, obviously, it goes without saying, you got to keep those eyes on the sky. So you want to be out there where you want to be a spot with big sky, right?
Okay.
Right. I don't believe in any of that CE5 stuff. I don't believe you got to meditate. I don't think any of that. I'm a new age.
No
UFO.
incense or anything.
I'm just a firm believer. If you wait out there and patient enough, these things, you will see them. I'd bring a green laser pointer, just in case, to differentiate planes from UFOs. Because if you shine at a plane crashes, it's human, right? Easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if you can blind a human and it crashes, I like this theory.
Right? You always aim
process,
for the
yep.
cockpit because that's what like aliens don't have a cockpit. We're
So far we have going outside and looking up.
federal felony.
Federal felony.
You want the FAA to come and arrest you? Yes.
Right? And then when you see a weird light, you go, whoa, did you see that? That was weird.
Yep.
UFO.
Okay. Okay.
So as they were out there, as Danny tells it, they saw pretty much nothing but stars, and a few distant airplanes that they could see until
as they were snuggling up on a blanket with Doug in the car.
Until something caught their eye, and they pointed out excitedly. He said that,
"Ooh, it's really cold out here, and I didn't bring my jacket."
Danny said him and his group, his reporter friends, I'll watch this distant object that seemed to be like moving around or vibrating in the air and just seemed to change colors erratically. And like they were like, that's it. That's the thing that everybody's been seeing. It's something and it's moving through the sky. Barbara, UFO expert as she is, apparently kind of just took a long breath and then said, I'm sorry to tell you guys, but what you're seeing is a star working its way through the atmosphere.
What?
Now, so
the fuck does that mean?
I've never heard that fucking explanation before.
So Finney said, she had
Mylar balloon, I would have believed.
Finney said she had been investigating UFO sightings for about 9 years, so close to a decade. And her expertise like led her to say like, this is a thing. And I've seen this before. Like when you have stars that are like just because the atmosphere is there, right? So it interferes with the light that's coming through it. And you have a star coming through there. It can look like that star is wobbling. It can look like the star is wobbling. It can change colors. It happens with Mars. I've seen it happen with Mars. Sometimes you actually observe it, like looks like it's kind of shaky, but at like a certain point where it hits it, like it stabilizes. And she kind of told them, just wait a second and then wait for it to kind of go a little bit further, like where from the the spot in the sky that it is, and just wait for it to move a little bit, and then you'll see it settle down. And it did. And she called it out just exactly, and it happened. And they're like, oh,
she is an
expert. That's kind of strange. They're like, oh, okay. But then she is also like, that might not be what everybody's seeing, but I can definitely we can rule out some things, right? So she was like, she's not in there to just be like, okay, everything's UFO and that's let's start meditating at it and get it to manifest its, get it out there. She's like, she kind of seems to know what she was talking about. She was a skeptical thing. And in her investigations, she'd been doing this stuff for, close to a decade. She said she had actually published her own monthly newsletter for a time, but she had to end up actually giving it up because she had so many people who she described as kooks writing to her, and then somebody actually started tampering with her mail at some point because she was publishing this newsletter, and she had to stop.
Getting too close to the truth.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's a good call.
That's exactly what it is.
And so from this, again, this was getting national coverage. This was getting news. This was getting news up and down, at least up and down the East Coast. You were having news teams come down and do reports on this. And apparently, in Danny's opinion, seeing it because he was keeping up with all the things that were being put out. He said there were some great stories done on the UFO sightings. But some of them, I guess, were kind of the ones that had his phones ringing off the hooks were the ones that didn't do it justice, I suppose. So there were a lot of Wythevilleans that were actually kind of up in arms about some of the news stories that seemed to approach it with a type of sarcasm and tried to paint Wytheville as this kind of hick town.
Well, yeah, I can see people being mad, hey, it's our town. You're fucking taking, having a laugh at us, having a funny at our expense.
Yeah, you're thinking that everybody out there just drinks moonshine and is just going half blind and thinks that they're just seeing a whole bunch of stuff. But
they got one eye that works.
So you have the apparently at least one of the stories, that story that specific story that Gordon referred to, there was enough pressure from the Wythe County residents that they actually forced a public apology from that network's reporter. They had to go on and apologize for what they did.
All 8,200 people wrote in.
Yeah. Well, apparently the apology aired on one of Gordon's newscasts. So his one of his Wytheville News at 9 or whatever, he actually aired it, and to placate the Wythevilleans, I don't know, so they don't take out their pitchforks, I guess. And then you had apparently they had another television news anchor that just laughed right after introducing the segment, which is I think we've all seen that, where it's people somebody's a local resident man, says that he's seen a UFO, a little snicker or sly smile or whatever. You see those kinds of things, indicating that they're not exactly taking it seriously. And the resident said they actually called that news station, and then they called him, and then they called Danny Gordon, and they were demanding another apology for blatant making fun of our people and community. So they did not take kindly to those who were
fucking don't make fun of Wytheville when Mr. Wytheville's on the watch.
And so it wasn't just nameless residents of Wytheville that were just getting these things. Apparently, one of the people who saw a UFO was Ann B. Crockett Stark, who is the wife of Wytheville's mayor, who had been mayor for nearly 3 decades. Apparently, mayor for 30 years. Wow. Who is Dr. Carl E. Stark.
He's running against a fucking dog or something.
No one opposed him. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Carl E. Stark, father to Tony Stark. Everybody knows that. And so he remarked on this situation that he felt proud. This is the mayor speaking, that he felt proud of the community because everybody was kind of approaching it very sensibly, and this is still at a time where it's like everybody's kind of like remembering, War of the Worlds news broadcasts and everybody freaking out, putting pots and pans on top of their heads and, getting their rifles and charging out into the mountains. And he's like, no, it's like, that's not really happening. It's like we seem to be taking it all in stride.
Well, they were already wearing pots for hats and living in the mountains. So,
well, and then we're going to get a call from Wytheville. We're going to have to give a public apology to the people of Wytheville.
We get an email from Danny Gordon. I heard your podcast.
Cease and desist.
I want a public apology.
Demand a public apology to the good
to the
people,
voice of Wytheville,
to the good people of Wytheville County, or Wythe County. So apparently the mayor didn't really have a problem with the labeling this like a UFO invasion or just kind of rolling with it, because he felt that apparently like it was bringing in these newspaper reporters and things. Yeah, they were bringing in money. It helped out the motel and the restaurant businesses locally. So he's like, he had no problem being like, yeah, UFOs, like come and see them, like come down to Wytheville, catch yourself a UFO.
It's literally every single one of these cities that has one of these sightings, the mayor's always on board instantly.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Merchandise, buddy.
Yeah.
Movies.
He's seeing just
Book
dollar
deals.
signs. He's
Let's
like,
go.
new
Tax
tourist
dollars.
info. In the shape of the UFO.
One of the other people who took advantage of the whole situation was one Richard Philippi, who is apparently a building contractor and a co-owner of the Texaco travel store and the Comfort Inn in Wytheville. Like, dude is an entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah.
His store started selling T-shirts with the message "Wythe County, Virginia, the UFO capital of Virginia" on them. Apparently, with a little illustration of UFO. And he said that
flying off the shelves.
Yeah, he said they sold out as fast as they could make them, and most of the people who were buying them were the visiting reporters. Like, because I mean, you'd want a souvenir if you drove all the way down 4 hours to go to Wytheville.
No, I guarantee they were buying them. They were buying them. So when they stood in front of the and tonight at 6, I'm on the location in Wytheville UFO Flap, and they're wearing the stupid shirt. Guarantee you, every single one of them.
And so, like we said, Danny was still very much a skeptic of one of those things, but he was going out there like a couple nights in a row. Like he was going out and looking for these things, like looking for the UFOs and trying to catch what was going on. And so one of these nights, specifically October 21st, just 2 weeks after that first sighting, Danny and his friend Roger Hall actually drove to the area where they had marked out that the most of the sightings had actually occurred. And so according to Danny, they brought along a 35 millimeter still camera as well as a video camera to catch, get photographic and video evidence, like for sure, this is what's happening. Now, once they got out there, they didn't really see anything. They were just about ready to give up. But Danny said that here's what he said in the quote: we were headed home after 2 hours of fruitless searching, and I just happened to look to my left, and I saw a very unusual object coming across the horizon. I pulled off to the side of the road in a hurry, jumped out. He got out on the right side, so he's talking about his buddy Roger Hall. And as I got out, I noticed the craft coming at me was very large. It had a dome shape on the top of it, no wings, and it had what appeared to be a strobe putting out multicolored lights on the right side of the craft. As I watched the sky, from the left came a red ball. As the big mothership, as he starts calling it, went into a small skiff of clouds, the red ball seemed to dock with the craft. And then he looked at each other, or they looked at each other apparently, and then they realized they didn't have their cameras in their hands because they were just staring at this thing. None of them had it. Like they were outside of the car. Both of them had left their cameras like in the back, like they had left the video camera in the back seat, and then the camera, like the camera was like on the dash of the car, and they had left it in there because they had both got out. And the one reason they had went out there, they both.
That's what I mean. Like your only point for doing this, and you fucking shit the bed.
Yeah,
like,
but I can see like you see something amazing like that. To me, that gives it more, because like if I saw something like you're just like, holy shit. The last thing on my mind would be camera.
If that were the case, then fucking Twitter and social media would be blank. Because all this crazy shit that's happening, everybody pops out their cell phones and films it right away.
This is because you had it on, you're used to that. Like that's
it's in the car. They're in the car. They get out of the car without the cameras.
Everyone
to look
carried
at
a camera with them all the time, right? So these guys aren't photographers.
You think, but that's why we're here. I see this. This is why we're here. Let's get a fucking picture.
So a few days later, Danny actually called he organized a press conference. Like he went all in on this, putting together this whole kind of conference together. And his kind of central idea was that he was going to get more data than just the radio call-ins. Like he was going to get to try and make sense of what exactly was going on. He had arranged for Barbara Finney, the UFO expert that he had brought out there before, to come out.
He was making his own contact in the desert.
They had David Bodner, who lived in West Virginia and was pretty much the nearest representative of MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, to come in and whatever. Now, to come in and kind of like he was gonna phone in, like he couldn't make it, so he was gonna phone in, to talk in there. So as he's getting this all ready, the night before the press conference, Danny said that he actually received a phone call from somebody who refused to identify themselves, and he said that he needed to be aware.
I know you.
He said that he needed to be aware that the CIA and the federal government were very much interested in Wythe County UFOs. And so at this point, Danny starts wondering about like what he's gotten himself into, that he's getting these random calls, and his wife was kind of telling him like, maybe you should back off of this.
You're too close to the truth, Danny.
We've got kids, like all this stuff that's kind of going on. Stuff's getting kind of weird now that we're getting anonymous phone calls, saying that it's not your place to be messing in defense matters.
You're gonna fuck around and get leukemia.
That's the warning before they kill your dog, pretty much.
They threatened him with leukemia.
They did. He said,
weaponized leukemia.
My son was on the truth like you, and he got viral leukemia.
So by Danny's reckoning,
I don't think that's a thing.
No, it's not.
I don't think that's a thing.
It's definitely not a fucking thing.
Reports of the press conference that it went fairly well, except there were a couple technical hiccups. I think they the phone call kind of cut off, like the phone call didn't get all the way through, so they only got a couple bits of that as it went in and out. Danny actually got some people to come up and like tell their stories of their sightings about what they had seen. It kind of almost became like an in-person call-in show at that point, a kind of live version of his news show, and then bringing people up to kind of tell their stories and just more of that stuff. So a mixture of local and national news networks actually there, including the National Enquirer, which was still big back then, kind of skeptical, usual skeptical magazine kind of coming in and be whatever. And apparently Danny had gotten some photos apparently after the night that they had not gotten the photos. They went out the night, before the conference in between then, and gotten some photos of what he thought were UFOs. And he showed it to the National Enquirer guy, and the National Enquirer guy was like, nah. Like, this isn't good enough. They're just blurry. These are just blurry pictures of lights. So I'm not sure.
And that's exactly what those pictures look like. It just looked like night shots of lights. You're like, you can't tell shit, dude. Like, shooting your camera at night has come a long way automatically, but like back then it was not something that like an amateur was good at. Just like, but you could just point and click your camera. Like, difficult. And it shows in these photos. It's just fucking, you're like, that's a light. I don't know what else I'm looking at. There's no frame of reference. There's nothing. So you can't see shit. It's a light.
So after the press conference, Danny reported that he discovered that his house had actually been broken into, and nothing was stolen, according to him. But Danny was convinced that they were actually looking for his photographs, like the photographs that he had taken. So after the press conference, like Danny was
the National Enquirer didn't even fucking want him, but the military was all over them.
Maybe they laced his bed sheets with leukemia.
Well, I think after the press conference, like apparently Danny had kind of scheduled to go to an event. He was either going to speak at an event or he was going to go somewhere where they were having another kind of basically like a like an alien con or whatever, like they were having like a convention.
He was doing the circuit. Yeah.
Yeah. He was going to go like either speak there about what was going on. He got a phone call, like he got another phone call, like
Travis Walton was like, "Listen, motherfucker, there's only room for one of us."
Maybe it was something like that, and it was somebody telling him that he was like going to contract some kind of like disease, like if he went to that thing, like that's where they were going to get him. Not that call, but like the shadowy forces that abound in the, in the United States government UFO cover up, like that. They said like that's what's going to happen if you go to this thing, and so. He was
basically
still
getting a warning. He was getting a warning that like, don't go. If you go, it's on you if you go.
And so he told his wife and stuff, kind of like they kind of talked it out, and he's like, all right, well, I'm done with this, kind of just whatever.
Well,
so
he says this great thing. He has this great line. He says, if you watch, there's an episode of Unsolved Mysteries season 4 or something. He goes, listen, and then at that point, it's fine to threaten me, but when you threaten my wife and my kids, you're treading on thin water, my friend. Right? I was very angry. So I did what anyone else would do. I had to protect myself and I hid. I'm just, no way. I'm not doing that. I backed down right immediately. But he like the way he pumps it up.
You don't want to tread on thin water.
Yeah. You don't, not with old Danny Gordon. It's so funny. Instantly, he starts talking this tough game and he's like, so I immediately backed down, didn't go. That's it. Not doing it anymore.
So he kind of gave up with that and compiled his stuff into the book we mentioned earlier with his buddy and kind of came out with it, like, and that was what it is. So the people of Wytheville within like this 3-month period kind of racked up more than 1,500 sightings of what they claimed were UFOs.
Yeah, but you know what, like at that point, though, it's like you have, because it's such a sense, and like again, you go out. Anyone, I'm telling you right now, you go out on a nice clear night with a big sky, spend 2-3 hours max, you will see something that you go, I don't know what that was. It doesn't mean it's always a UFO. Doesn't mean it. But now you have a whole town and every single person going out, right? Even, guys drinking moonshine, only made it to grade 4. They're looking up. They're like, they see a star pop at dusk. They're like, oh, look at that. There it is. Woo, saw one.
Yeah, it's and down there would be pretty nice because it's like, it would be big open sky down there. Not a lot of light pollution. Like down there, it's big rural country down in the Blue Ridge down there. So yeah, I imagine you see all kinds of stuff.
Right. So it's like, it's tough. Like that to me is like when all of a sudden you see that many, are they all, can you discredit all of them? No, of course not. But I would say just based off that, I would chop that number by 90% at least of legit. What was legit? Everything else I would attribute to just people going crazy because it's a wild story at this point, right? It's hot. Like everyone wants to be a part of history.
Everyone wants a piece.
Right? I saw it.
Everybody wants to talk to Danny.
Yep. Everybody wants to be on Danny's show. Everybody wants to talk to the voice of Wytheville.
Everybody wants to be whispering in Wytheville, baby.
Well, if he got hundreds of calls a day, how many days? Let's do math. What, 80 days till he talked to the whole town? Right?
Because we know firsthand that in call-in shows, there's always repeat callers.
Oh yeah.
So there's some guy calling 150 fucking times on that show. every 20 minutes.
Noah is what you're saying?
Hey,
no names.
Wytheville's Noah.
Hey, Danny, this is Chris from Wytheville. Sorry, Chris from Denver. We love you.
Some guy's calling every time. He's following it. He gets hung up on it and just immediately dials back, giving you live updates the whole time.
Mm-hmm. So I believe the mystery still continues to this day because I'm sure if you go to Wytheville, they're still seeing UFOs down that. I mean, you still got Langley over there. You still got all kinds of testing going on. UFOs. Maybe want to keep an eye on Langley. Maybe Langley wants to keep an eye on the UFOs. Who knows?
It's just
go down there and get yourself a T-shirt. Wytheville County capital, UFO capital of Virginia.
Right, and like it's the thing to me is like in this story. There's definitely something that went on in Wytheville just because of the initial, like, when you talk about it, so many people like, I saw something too. the fact that Danny Gordon gets kind of tied up in this is like, he is painfully obvious to me just looking at this as his claim to fame, right? Like he can make a buck off it. He's doing whatever he can to keep it in the spotlight kind of thing. But it's like, that doesn't negate the fact that he ran this story and he was going to run it as a joke because he thought it was funny. He thought it was funny. He was the same way we bashed,
I mean, did he run it because he thought it was funny, or did he run it because he had nothing fucking else to talk about?
Well, maybe twofold.
Not a lot
because
going on in that
he
town.
said I usually ran a ha-ha at the end of the show, and this was tonight's ha-ha. And then the town, like, obviously there was something going on where it sparked that much of an interest in the town, being like, I saw something too. Like, that's not there's something going on, right? So, like, to me, like, that initial thing, the initial sighting that the sheriff, I would say, like, that is something of interest to me, like that initial sighting, because it obviously sparked enough people calling in being like, I saw it too. That kind of set this firestorm of media interest away. And it kind of turns into a circus show after that, right? Like, if like, I see you go out tonight, I saw another one. Here's a picture of my blurry pictures, right? Like, Danny Gordon's just kind of a grifter, in my opinion, of trying to like monetize this to the full extent. He's like, this is my ticket to the national radio.
His ticket out of Wytheville. Is he still on the radio today? That is the question.
Nobody knows.
If you're from this area and you tune into this station still,
Danny
WFXR.
Gordon.
Is WFXR even still a radio station?
WFXR.
Yeah, he's still
Virginia.
He speaks. He spoke at the Wytheville UFO Fest last
I watched
June.
that video on YouTube.
Oh, guess what? When this is released, this will probably be like, when this release is probably on the 2023 Wytheville UFO Fest.
Boom.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
No,
'Cause the last one was in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're doing it. Let's see if they're doing it. Is it with?
Happy birthday, Wytheville UFO Fest. Happy with what do we call them? Wytheville Countians. Happy UFO Fest. Wythvillians.
Oh, it starts in 4 days. So it's on. Oh, it's gonna. Yeah.
We're close.
Anyways,
we're close.
Look
We're
at,
close.
look at this. They got a fucking dope logo.
I know.
Look at this.
It's like kind of like our 80s logo.
Where is it? This one? Is that working?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty
That's cool.
dope.
That's a really cool logo, actually.
That is really cool.
This is really cool.
I don't know why
No wonder why everyone was buying the shirts.
Yeah.
I'd buy that shirt in a
I
second.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they had mushrooms. But is Wytheville famous for mushrooms?
Well, that would explain
my
why
Every fucking Truett was on mushrooms.
1,500 sightings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's assisted art. And the assist is side by side.
Absolutely.
But it's an interesting, it's a cool case. It's always cool when you have that many people that are so interested in the topic and they're like, we're seeing stuff in the skies. And you got to think that these people are right when they say like they'd know a plane, because like you would hear it. You would hear the explanations that this is possibly a jet refueling, I think, are preposterous, that people would mistake that. I personally have never seen a jet refueling at 13,000 feet, but I feel like I would know when I saw that.
Yeah,
I'd be
because you
like,
see a bunch of people with their asses and slings.
No, Braden's an expert. We've already.
Yeah, I'm an expert.
We've already
Oh, yeah,
covered
he's an
this.
expert.
Anything in the sky,
God
Braden's
damn,
an
I keep
expert.
forgetting.
yeah, if it's in the sky, within the atmosphere, expert. If it's unidentified, I'm an expert at.
I tell you, that's
I'm
unidentified.
identifying it.
Well, no, I'm an expert at going like, yeah, I don't know what that is. That's unidentified,
That's pretty crazy.
right? But a lot of times now I can be like, I've seen enough where I'm like, China balloons, Mylar balloon, China balloon, China
Bug.
lantern,
Skydiver with flare.
Yeah.
Those ones are cool though.
Yeah, they do look cool.
They look really fucking cool.
Yeah, anything else before we wrap this one up?
Hopefully you would attend the festival. If you attended the festival,
you
let us
have
know
time.
how it was.
You're doing it right now.
All right, this Theorite of the week. This Theorite needs our help. If you're on our Facebook group, it's pinned. GoFundMe for Kyle. Kyle is currently battling cancer. He's fighting hard. He's got family stuff. Everyone's looking out for him, and we hope him the best. And if you're interested in helping out Kyle's GoFundMe, helping his family, support him in his fight so he can, with bills and stuff. The GoFundMe is pinned on our Facebook page, facebook.com/alien theorists theorizing group. You can join it. It's pinned right on the page there. I'll post it on the page again and just pin it to the top.
We'll put it in the podcast description as well.
Yeah, go help out if you can.
Absolutely.
Good old boy, been a Theorite for a long time, and cancer sucks, man. So let's help him kick cancer's ass. So Kyle,
Keep
to
fighting,
you,
Kyle.
and you and yours, you're the Theorite of the week, and hopefully we can kick cancer's ass with you.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Right, and if you're not supporting the show and you want early access to the bonus stuff, the Discord, all the goodies, you got to go to alientheorist.com, hit that support tab, support on Patreon or Supercast. They do the same thing. This week's newest supporters are Matthew. This guy's pledged a few different times, but I don't mind reading it. Zell is by far the best one. Paul Zeitlin and Bear Country goes up in his pledge. Long-time supporter. We appreciate it.
Look at Bear Country. And as we always say at the end of these things, don't look up, because if you look up, then people are going to come around and ask you about what you're looking up about, and then you're not
Might
going
get leukemia.
You're going to get leukemia. You don't want to look up anymore. Keep his eyes on the skies.
Seen that, Frank.